This is the Uptick Network Stock Day podcast, sponsored by InvestorsHangout.com. Penny stock news and interviews from the microcap world. Public information on OTC, pink sheets, and microcap stocks from around the world. With your host, Jasyn Blair.
Today on Stock Day, we have an amazing guest. His name is John Poss. He is the CEO for GB Sciences Incorporated. They're trading on the OTCQB under the ticker symbol GBLX. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jasyn. I'm really pleased to be here.
It's our pleasure to have you. We love having companies come on and tell us about their unique niche in the industry here. So, John, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about GB Sciences Incorporated?
Sure, Jasyn. Well, I'm the CEO, as you mentioned. I'm probably a little bit old for this industry. I'm 69 years old, and it's actually I've done a lot of stuff in my career. I've been CEO, COO, CTO, every kind of vice president you can imagine for big companies and little companies in all kinds of industries. And I got to tell you, this is the most exciting industry I've ever been in, and I'm having more fun than I ever did in any job I've ever had. It's fantastic to be in this business.
Exceptional.
I love it. And you know, one of the reasons, I got here, I got a call one day. Someone said, you want to help us out with this company? I said, sure. What is it? And they said, cannabis. And I jumped out of my chair and I said, absolutely, I do. And what I found when I got to this company is a company that's a little different than other cannabis companies that I've encountered or read about or been introduced to. This company is informed by science from top to bottom. They're trying to do everything the right way. Mm-hmm. We want to be the adults in the cannabis industry, if you understand what I mean.
Sure, absolutely.
Just do everything kind of gold-plated. And the reason the company takes that approach is very simple. We're patient-focused. We're here because of the patients. Certainly, we plan on making good returns and a lot of money, because there's a lot of money to be made in this industry, but we want to do it the right way. And we want to make sure that every time any customer uses our product for a medical or recreational use, they know that they're getting the highest quality, purest, most consistent cannabis in the industry. That is our number one goal: consistency from top to bottom. Every lozenge you take, every vape pen you smoke, all the flower, every flower time you get flower and smoke it, it's going to be the same every time. Consistent quality. And we're doing that because we're focused on the science. We're able to do that because we're focused on the science side of the business. We've got a couple of terrific PhDs working with us. We also have a network of PhDs at universities. We do independent research. We've got a lot of stuff to do on the We've done a lot of stuff on the patents and formulation side. It's just really exciting, and that's who GrowBlocks is. I think we're going to be the quality brand in the industry.
I can definitely see that here for your company, and just doing a little bit of research here before the show, it definitely seems like you guys are on the fast track. Well, I shouldn't say fast track, but you guys are just taking your methodical approach to the cannabis industry that really isn't touched upon by other companies. In fact, why don't we dive right in here and just you labeled off a few things that you guys do already, but what makes you guys so different from other cannabis companies that are in the industry right now?
Well, I guess, one of the things that was characterized the cannabis industry was a rush to market. Everyone wanted to get their facilities built as soon as possible.
Right.
Everyone wanted to be cash flow. And that's obviously a really important thing to do. But we look at cannabis as a long, long road. This is an industry that's going to be around 50 years from now. So everything we do is done thinking of the long road view and where the industry really is headed and may end up. And it starts with us with a drug discovery. We actually have a research arrangement with a university. We've been funding this research now for 2 years. We have two issued patents on heart formulation. We have a provisional patent on a Parkinson neurological compound. Mm-hmm. We just did an anti-inflammatory compound. So number one, we wanted the things that we sell to be efficacious in treating specific diseases. Cannabis is a very complex plant. Mm-hmm. All cannabis plants are not created equal. They have varying degrees of cannabinoids and terpenes, and what you're ingesting may or may not be effective in treating your particular ailment. Well, we don't like that randomness. So what we're doing is finding very specific, scientifically grounded compounds that will help you if you have Crohn's disease, help you if you have epilepsy, help you if you have Parkinson's, help you if you have anxiety, and on and on and on and on. And then the next thing you have to do is say, okay, if these are the ingredients that are required for that, we have to be able to produce consistent plants. So we develop tissue culture. We don't clone plants. We do them from tissue. What does that mean? That means you can sterilize them and therefore remove any systemic problems in the plant that existed prior to create a new plant.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing we do is, I don't know if you know, but people in industry understand genetic drift. If you clone from a mother and clone from that child, two or three iterations later,
mm-hmm.
you got a different plant than you started with.
Right.
But with our tissue culture, we can put that tissue in the freezer and produce exactly the same genetics 10 years from now. All of our plants then, that allows us to be consistent. The plants have the same ratios of terpenes and cannabinoids and THC every time. So that's piece one, the formulations. Piece two, the plant. Piece three then becomes, how are we going to cultivate these plants?
Mm-hmm.
We do it in clean rooms. We're the only company in North America that has a pharmaceutical grade, not North America, in the United States, because they do have them in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
But we grow in a very, very controlled environment that allows us to take these plants that are consistent, control them, grow them under GMP. That's the Good Manufacturing Practices of the FDA, which means that they're going to be the same, and they also means that you can produce. If you want to go down FDA trials, you've got to have a secure source of supply under GMP standards. So that means that we can now take this plant matter and we can extract it under GMP, and we can produce compounds that are truly pharmaceutical grade.
Amazing.
Which is it's a wonderful thing, but it's also a risk, a low risk thing, because let's look at this. If cannabis is Schedule 1 right now.
Right.
Okay. If it becomes Schedule 2, it means it's a drug. If it's a drug, the FDA controls it.
Uh-huh.
If the FDA controls it, it has to be grown to FDA standards.
Correct.
So everyone says that cannabis ought to be rescheduled to Schedule 2. Many cannabis growers who are saying that don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
Going to Schedule 2 could legislate them right out of existence.
Absolutely.
But not us. We're prepared for that.
Exceptional. My guest again today is John Poss. He is the CEO for GB Sciences Incorporated. They're trading on the OTCQB under the ticker symbol GBLX. Now, you touched up on so much in just a short amount of time here, and it's amazing information, don't get me wrong here. But tell us about your drug discovery division and how you guys integrate that with your cultivation and extraction division.
Well, if you're going to sell something, you got to define, your product and how to build it and how to make it. And since we started out, as I said, very much scientifically grounded and patient-focused, we started with picking the diseases. We started with the university partner. Then we started with the target diseases. And the target diseases, a list was developed from all the anecdotal information out there of what cannabis works to heal. Then we said, okay, what specifically is causing this mechanism? So we bought a bunch of disease cell lines. You can buy those from research organizations. A disease line of cancer cells, for example. Then we did computer modeling, and we said, which combinations of cannabinoids and terpenes are really what's causing this to be anecdotally successful?
Mm-hmm.
And from the computer modeling, which is available today, it's statistically oriented and based on a lot of known research, we came up with a list of the specific cannabinoids and terpenes that may or may not be successful in treating, for example, it's called double negative breast cancer, triple negative breast cancer, and it's just an example. We started essentially trying through trial and error various combinations of the targeted cannabinoids and terpenes that we identified through computer modeling, and started exposing those to the cells. And over again, different combinations until we identified the ones that seemed to be successful.
Uh-huh.
And the interesting thing is what we learned is that the combinations really matter. Like, for example, one cannabinoid may, appear to be positive. But then when you put it in the entourage effect, which is something I definitely should talk about, as you know, Raphael Masula was the discoverer of THC. He's the grandfather of the industry, really. He identified something called the entourage effect, which says that the combined effect of multiple cannabinoids and terpenes is more effective than single ones. Typically in the pharmaceutical industry, they find a plant that seems to have some effective policies, the efficacy in treating disease. They identify one compound in that plant that seems to be effective, and they develop that compound. They learn how to synthesize it, and you have a drug. We're embracing the complexity of the plant by saying we're going to produce drugs that have multiple compounds. And so we discovered that some compounds seem to help, but then when you put them with others, they subtract. But so you have to pick the right 4 to 5 to 10 cannabinoids and terpenes to really be the right answer. So we took those. We did the screening for probably 15 different diseases.
Mm-hmm.
Then we followed the process I just described by exposing them to the actual disease cells in a petri dish, found out which ones worked the best. Then we're writing patents on those. We've written 3 patents so far. We've got 7 to 10 patents in the pipeline. And we said, okay, when we do these patents, though, we want to make sure we have a really good critical patent that we can defend. So we went out and convinced Fenwick and West to represent us for intellectual property. Fenwick and West represents Apple and Google and Pfizer Pharmaceutical. They're the top dogs in IP law. About a third of their practice is in the pharmaceutical end or the life sciences end. They agreed to take us as their first cannabis client.
Wow.
Because they saw the efficacy. They saw that we'd done serious research. We weren't pot guys. We weren't just trying to sell weed. We were very serious about the science of what we're doing, and we wanted to do things right. So they've been writing our patents. All right. So then, okay, so how does it integrate with our cultivation unit?
Mm-hmm.
Our endpoint is drugs that help patients, drugs that alleviate suffering. We do the drug discovery right, but we have to make sure that we don't squander all that work by not having a FDA pharmaceutical grade cultivation and processing units, so that from top to bottom, this passes muster. It's droughted in science. The cultivation is GMP, FDA required conditions, and we've just hired. So you can't have what we aspire to without the quality of production and extraction that we developed. And all of the stuff that I just described takes longer. It's a methodical, step-by-step process that leads to, hopefully, very positive outcomes for our patients. So that's how they fit together.
That's just incredible and interesting.
But we can only do this by taking the long view, Jasyn. We have to think that we're here forever. We're not here to make a few bucks over a few years so somebody can maybe buy us, cash out, and go live on the beach. We're here to be making good cannabis-based medicines for patients for the next 50 years.
Amazing. My guest again today is John Poss. He is the CEO for GB Sciences Incorporated. They're trading on the OTCQB under the ticker symbol GBLX. To find out more information on GB Sciences Incorporated, you can visit their website by going to www.gbsciences.com. John, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show here. You're an amazing guest, and it's such an interesting topic. I could listen to you all day, but unfortunately, we're running a little short on time. But I hope you'll come back and visit us again in the near future and just keep us up to date on GB Sciences.
I would be delighted, Jasyn. It's been really fun talking to you. Thanks for giving me a chance to tell our story.
The following program is entirely sponsored and produced by Uptick Newswire LLC, which is responsible for the following content. The opinions and information provided on today's show are those of the guests and of those of the respective companies they represent, and does not necessarily reflect those of the staff or management of this station. Uptick Network encourages all listeners of the show to do their own due diligence and research when determining investment strategies that'll work for them, or to seek the assistance of an investment professional. The guests of today's show may have paid to appear on the show and are not directly affiliated with Uptick